everyone, Old School Pokemon here, back again with podcast episode number 8 with Catch 'em All Collectibles, Dan. We were just talking, but it feels like it's been forever since our last podcast. A lot has happened the past 2 weeks. How are you doing tonight, Dan?
I'm doing really well. I didn't have nearly as much going on as you, but for some reason it did still seem like a long 2 weeks to me, and I'm really excited to have another chat.
Yeah, no, should be a good time for sure. Got a lot to talk about within this episode. A lot of questions this time around, which is awesome. We're still going to answer everyone's question. Gonna kind of give a few quick answers to a few of them, and then longer answers to a few other ones. But everyone's question will be answered. And if you guys do have other questions for future episodes, feel free to leave them in the comments below. But I guess I'll get started with the first question, and then we'll kind of alternate from there.
Mm-hmm.
So my first question is from Ernesto A. Asks, what's the best place to buy cheap Japanese WotC hollows? Buy eBay, Instagram. So my answer to that would be I've never used Buy or Mercari or any of those Japanese sites. I've only just used eBay, Instagram, Facebook, and I would just say a combination of the three. Just comes down to timing. Obviously, if you can find someone local selling them, that's probably going to be your cheapest option. I've done well finding local collections, but I would just say a combination of three. Just keep searching and then sort by price lowest first, and pick up any deals that you come across there.
Yeah, the inherent problem with cheap is like if it's too cheap, someone else is going to see it and they're going to buy it. So you either need to be searching for newly listed and snap it up quick, or I've always had good luck in like lots. If you buy a big lot, mixed lot of different things, I've accumulated a fair bit of Japanese hollows, buying out primarily English collections, so not even really looking for them. But I'd imagine that on eBay you could find lots and a little bit of luck, like Nick said. I had a question from Island Hustle. When you guys get an offer for a PSA card on eBay and it's low/non-offer you are willing to take, do you let the offer expire, or do you always decline/counter offer? So I don't know about you, Nick, but I always have, I say always, but almost always have a auto decline set up. So say I'm listing a card for 1,000, say I'd take 850. I'll probably have an auto decline at like 750 so that I don't see the really low balls. And if someone offers 850, or offers 750, I'd counter 850 what I'd take, or maybe I'll counter 900 and play that back and forth. But yeah, primarily auto declines for me. How about you?
I can't stand the auto decline. Just coming from like a buyer perspective, where if not saying this towards you, obviously, but if a seller isn't willing to put in the time to respond to an offer that I make as a buyer, I just forget about that seller and move on to the next seller. So for me, I don't like the auto decline feature for that reason. I actually do respond to every single offer, whether I receive a lot of ridiculous offers, but I always counter offer at what I'm willing to accept, no matter how low or how bad the offer is. And sometimes it does work out where the buyer will accept that counter offer even after submitting a low ball offer. For the most part, they just decline that offer. But I always respond to every offer I get. Really doesn't take too much time either. You can blow through those pretty quickly. But my next question is from TCG Caravan. What's your take on insurance using FedEx? This is a question in regards to our last episode where I was talking about sending high value items via FedEx versus USPS. So what's your take on insurance using FedEx? Have you had to try to collect on a lost package? Me personally, I've never had an issue where I've had to try and collect on a missing package through FedEx. I've had a few via USPS, but nothing through FedEx. With me personally, I use the postage program that I use has an option for FedEx and UPS and USPS, and they actually have their own third-party insurance. So you're not purchasing insurance through USPS or FedEx or UPS or whatever. It's through this whole different third party, and I've never had an issue with them thus far. Like I said, I've only had claims through USPS, but I've never had an issue with them thus far. Hopefully that continues going forward. But I have heard some stories where it's like the earlier part of this question was about whether or not FedEx even has insurance, or whether they want you to declare the value of the item for whatever reason. And that is a mystery to me, because I've heard conflicting opinions on whether or not FedEx actually does offer insurance and pays out if packages are lost, or whether they don't offer insurance at all. So I really am not sure on that one, if you're looking to purchase insurance through FedEx directly. I don't know if you know anything further about that.
I'm not 100% sure of this, but I know that something like this came up on E4 before, and I think FedEx has a limitation where they won't insure collectibles for over 1,000. So if you try to insure for higher than that, they may take your money and you may be insured for that much. But then if a claim ever came up and you describe the contents as collectibles, if you're not following their terms and conditions, their fine print, you may find that the insurance you've been paying for however long has never really been there. So be careful with that, and just make sure you read the fine print.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't really use FedEx often. I did 2 extremely high value shipments to PWCC, and I used their prepaid, fully insured FedEx overnight labels for 2 6-figure packages. I would never have shipped those myself through FedEx, just because I wouldn't have been able to get insurance for that high.
Yeah.
I do, whenever I ship anything over like 10 grand, I use USPS registered. You can insure up to 50 grand for relatively cheap. I do have kind of a dealer insurance policy that theoretically covers a relatively high amount for packages, as long as I use signature confirmation through either FedEx, UPS, or USPS. But I've never had a package with signature confirmation lost. So theoretically, the insurance is there. I'm kind of being redundant when I ship with USPS registered insured. But at those values, I can't afford to lose $10,000 to $50,000.
No, absolutely not.
I'd rather theoretically be double insured than try to collect and find out that my insurance wasn't what I thought it was.
Yeah, exactly.
So Cardboard Origins was my next question, and they asked, what are each of your 3 favorite cards of all time? Mine are the Pichu Bros Japanese movie promo, Hollow Aquapolis Houndoom, and the 13013 Mew play promo. Honestly, this one I kind of had to think about a little bit beforehand. Nick and I were talking before we started, because I didn't have an answer at the ready. I just love so many cards. I appreciate so many of the different arts, but if I had to pick 3, I mean, I'll tell you 3, and if you ask me next week, there'll probably be 3 different ones. But base Charizard, like I don't think it's necessarily an amazing artwork, but just the nostalgia it brings me back to the playground, gawking over someone's binder that had it, and just that one's up there. And then 2 others that I'd pick. Fossil was one of my favorite sets, partially because that was one of the most accessible packs in my area. That was the one that I probably opened the most of back in the day. So that Fossil Dragonite, I really like it. Just that big goofy winged dragon that you have no idea how he evolved from Dragonair, but he's an interesting Pokemon. And then Shining Gyarados, Pokemon Crystal was my favorite game. And the art on Shining Gyarados just takes me back to that red Gyarados, the Lake of Rage encounter in Crystal. So those are my three today. How about you, Nick?
My number one's really easy.
Yeah,
No Damage Ninetales.
yeah.
After that, it gets a little tricky though. Gonna have to copy you and say Shining Gyarados as my second favorite, just because it's got the ocean scene, little guy in the rowboat. Then you got Gyarados. I love the artwork on that card. So that'd be my number two. And then my number three would actually be the Celebi VMAX from Chilling Reign, which is the newest Pokemon set. And I absolutely love the artwork on that card. I think it's a fantastic card. So those would be my three.
That'll probably be a fairly unexpected answer to get something so modern. So that's a nice,
I know,
nice change of pace there. I like it.
Gotta mix things up every once in a while. Keep people on their toes. So my next question is from Stephen PFC or Watsy Error on Instagram. With certain error cards now being labeled by PSA, example, Ghost Pikachu, No Damage Ninetales, is it worth waiting 40 years to send and grade with PSA or send to CGC and have the slab labeled error and get back much quicker? He wants to know, like, which is better for, like, the value and stuff like that. So for me, I would say I like CGC for error cards more so than PSA. I think CGC's niche is going to be error cards from here on out. So I would actually recommend CGC for error cards versus PSA. And I also like that because with CGC, I feel like when you collect CGC cards, you're really not collecting like complete sets. CGC is more so for cards that you like, one-off cards that you enjoy collecting. That's what I do with CGC anyway. But so I think error cards fits into that category perfectly, where you're not collecting an entire set of error cards. It's more so like individual cards that you're collecting.
Yeah, to me, I mean, I guess the context of the question isn't really disclosed as far as whether it's as a collector. I mean, the answer is always whichever you prefer. If it's more with resale in mind, depending on the value of it, if it's a higher value thing, I mean, you can grade and get a card relatively quickly back from CGC for a reasonable price. What is walkthrough I know is 125 because I just sent two Mysterious Pearls there. But I think the tier below that, 40 a card maybe with subgrades.
I was gonna say 50, yeah.
Ballpark, somewhere in there. So
yeah.
For that being an option, whereas PSA tomorrow something may change, but or I guess the day that this is posted, something may have changed, but kind of a middle ground option is you can always pay $50, get it in a CGC case, try putting it on the market, see what it does if you've got the time and the ability to do that. And you can always grade with PSA down the line if you have no luck. Sometimes people seem to treat grading as if it's like a final act, like it's an irreversible option. I'm picking up a lot of different grading companies slabs. I'm just buying the card, and down the line I can sort out who I want to ultimately grade it with if I want to change it up. So I guess that's my answer. Kind of it depends. So Daniel C asked, for PSA and CGC, is it always the best idea to claim the maximum declared value for a tier? And if it is, what is even the point of them asking us? Do the amounts secretly affect turnaround times or something else important? It all seems unnecessary. So I'll address the latter half of that question first. The point of them asking is solely for insurance purposes. when you sign on that line to send in your submission, when you're agreeing to their terms, what you put on that line is theoretically the maximum amount they will reimburse you for that card, if it ends up damaged or whatever. Funny enough, I have thankfully it was just a non-hollow centret, but they pinched this one in the slab when they were encapsulating it, and I think it was going to be like a 9, and it went down to a PSA 4. So I did that through a middleman, so I'm not even sure how that works out, but they probably will credit me the $5 I declared it at, and then not charge me for the grading fee. But yeah, so I guess the answer to the first part of that, you should definitely claim. I mean, if it's a mint card, I always try to claim roughly what it would be worth in PSA 9. Impossible to guess, because when you were submitting cards last July, you didn't know that it would take a year to get them necessarily. You don't know what the values are going to do. But I guess a small consideration for what you claim it at is the way they charge for return shipping. They kind of bracket certain price ranges, associate with certain return shipping costs. So, I mean, you might be able to save 10 or 20 bucks on your return shipping if you stay in one tier or whatever. I submit pretty much everything these days through middlemen though, so I'm not even like individually listing out my values of each card. I don't know about you or your thoughts on that, Nick.
Yeah, I'd agree with everything you said there. I started using a middleman for my submissions too, which just makes the whole process a lot easier. But before that, I would always just declare at like a rough value of what the card would be worth, and if it was like a mint condition card, what it would be worth as an 8 or a 9. So I never, you don't want to max, like, say like the bulk tier is like $100 per card. You don't want to just list every card as $100 unless every card is actually worth $100, because all that's doing is you're getting charged more for the return postage with the shipping. And I don't know how it would work if you did submit a claim. Like if something did happen, would you get that whole $100 back, or would they investigate it and see that you're submitting this $5 card declared at $100? Would they actually reimburse you 100, or would there be some like investigation to that? I don't know how that would work.
I really don't know either.
But yeah, I would just declare it whatever the card's actually worth in the condition, versus just declaring the maximum amount is what I would say. So my next question is from Retrograded. What do you think the effect of grading companies evaluating booster boxes would be for boxes from various eras, both in terms of price and potentially fleshing out pop reports? What else might happen, and is it even possible? I personally don't think it could happen in the future. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, just because of people have already had this conversation about grading booster boxes. And I know I forget the name of the company, but there's some company that grades older sports card boxes. But with the WotC wrapping, from what I've heard anyway, so this one company grades older sports card boxes, but with Pokemon, with the WotC wrapping, it adds like another layer of something that you have to authenticate, which makes it a lot tougher to. Which, if that company did start grading Pokemon boxes, it would put liability on them. So it could happen at some point in the future. I don't know if it will, just because it is really tough to 100% authenticate these booster boxes and say for certain that they are legitimate, especially when you come to like first edition base and shadowless base, where you have that clear wrapping. It makes it a lot tougher to completely authenticate those. But it would be really nice if at some point some company came along and started grading and authenticating these boxes. I think to further answer some of the questions, I think pricing would dramatically increase on those graded boxes, because you'd have a whole condition scale now where certain boxes are mint condition, certain are excellent condition or whatever. And then it would really be nice to kind of see these pop reports and be able to keep track of how many booster boxes are out there of a certain set. But I don't know if it'll ever happen. What do you think on that one?
Yeah, it's really tough. BBCE, Baseball Card Exchange, they're the ones who they wrap old sports boxes, mostly like wax boxes, I think. I've heard a lot of people talk about this, kind of theorize what it would look like, what might happen. Some people have said, well, maybe they'd actually take off the wrapping, open it up, verify that it's all legitimate, maybe make sure the 12 heavy packs are there, and then wrap it in their own thing and certify it. I know, like, the box that Rusty sold to Logan Paul for that last box break, that was actually, Rusty had a little bit of concern about it, I think. So he opened it, checked it all out, and then he sealed it. Like, he sealed it with a sticker, signed his name on it and whatever. Maybe something like that could exist, but then you're gonna have a lot of purists or whatever you'd call them that they want. I mean, they would value that less. They would want the original manufacturer wrapping, and there's just so many questions. And honestly, they're above my pay grade, I guess. I'd be completely guessing. I could see where there could be a really big premium coming on some of them. But in a way, too, like, I think I've heard people throw out crazy numbers as to how many boxes they think exist. I mean, some people think that like 10 to 20 base first edition boxes exist in the world. I've heard that number, and this was a few years ago. How many have been opened since? And in a way, it could almost negatively affect prices of certain sets when you see. I mean, if people saw like 50 graded first edition boxes, then they might think, wow, there might actually be like 300 out there if 50 had been graded. So I could see it increasing the prices in a way. I could see it almost dampening the prices in some ways, but if and when it happens, it'll be really interesting. I never something that I'd be a customer for. I don't think graded box. No, not me. Boxes are made to be opened.
For me, it would depend on how they grade them. If it was something like what Rusty did with his first base box, where they actually took the seal off and checked the packs and all that, I wouldn't like that, because I like it. It would have to be intact. It would have to be something like what Wada does with video games, where they encase the whole game in the original packaging, or in the original like the cellophane or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It would have to be something like that for me personally.
I just worry. I mean, I've heard that all packs that go through PSA for authentication, they actually go to that guy down at BBCE. And I don't know if you remember, but a couple of years ago, I mean, I don't know how widespread it is, but there are confirmed instances of PSA graded packs having been resealed packs. I would just forever worry about that. And I guess if you tie in like a financial guarantee or whatever, that goes away. If you ever cracked it, you just do it on video and then get paid out theoretically.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, to me, sealed product is just so hard to keep and sit on, because I just think about what's inside. Definitely an interesting question, though. Interesting thing to think about.
That is, yeah, for sure.
So my next question was from Mihaly S. No idea if I said that right. Sorry if I didn't. But do you have an opinion on if there were less shadowless cards produced than first edition base cards produced? I actually meant to go look at the pops before I answered this question, and then I forgot. I believe the shadowless hollows are all across the board. I think they're graded less than the first edition base, right? Largely, that would be due to the value, just because there's less graded. I think a lot of people see that the pops are lower and they think, well, there's less of them. Population report is also to some extent a popularity report or a value report. I mean, cards that are more valuable are more likely to be graded. Cards that are more popular are likely to be graded. So I would say that I would fairly confidently say that there's a lot more shadowless cards than base first. What a lot means, I don't know exactly, but multiples more. I think that when base set first came out, they theoretically had a desire. I think there's chat log somewhere for the first edition to be like a 10% of the total print run, right?
Yep.
Theoretically, I've seen people kind of theorize, well, maybe it's a 9-to-1 ratio between shadowless and first edition because they printed all the shadowless and then they just stamped 10% of them, and that's where you got your. And then unlimited came after for several runs.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's true or not, I don't really know. But shadowless, you got to think that, I mean, some of the hollows, your Ninetales, right? It's a fair bit more common, especially because it's in the theme decks.
Yeah, exactly.
Where first edition, aside from a champ, there were no first edition theme decks. So yeah, specifically, I mean, the 4 decks showing up in shadowless, I mean, you hit Charmander in both the 2-player starter and the fire deck.
Fresh fire. Yep.
Yep. And then you get Bulbasaur in the other one. I'm assuming Squirtle's in the water one as well, probably.
I think Squirtle's in Blackout.
So like a lot of the starters and a lot of the more key cards of the shadowless set are automatically, I mean, they're printed quite a bit more just because they're in those decks.
Yep.
Kind of, I really like the shadowless set. It's kind of it's the one set that is like different in its own way, because like all the other WotC, Neo Revelation first edition is just unlimited Neo Revelation, same card design, same everything except for that stamp. Whereas shadowless is distinctly different, lacking the shadow, different color saturation from base set unlimited. So I'm not trying to knock it and say there's a lot more than other people think. I think it's a unique set. It's a cool release, but I'm pretty confident there's a fair bit more than first edition. How about you?
Oh yeah. I'm a huge fan of shadowless. That is by far my favorite set, and I do think there's a lot more shadowless in first edition. I have a lot more shadowless than I do first edition, and so I have a good bit of shadowless. So if there's less shadowless in first edition base, I'm sitting real pretty. But
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case, unfortunately. Like you were saying, where shadowless was printed in the theme decks, that adds a lot right there. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention with the pop reports was you touched on the shadowless pop reports being less than first edition, and like what you said, it is partially because first edition was always super popular to grade, so people have always been grading first edition base, whereas there were people that didn't know the difference between shadowless and unlimited for a while, and then it just wasn't as beneficial to grade right from the beginning. But then the other thing I wanted to mention there was I've actually never seen one, but shadowless wasn't always a thing with grading. There's certain cards that were graded, certain shadowless cards that were graded as base unlimited cards. So the shadowless pop report isn't 100% accurate. Have you ever seen a shadowless card in an unlimited case?
I feel like
that's not designated as shadowless.
I've never owned or held one, definitely. I feel like I've seen like pictures of them linked on E4 somewhere probably years ago, but I haven't really seen or heard it talked about recently.
Yeah, I don't remember ever seeing one, but I know they do exist because Gary King Pokemon was the one to kind of term that shadowless term, or coin that shadowless term is what I wanted to say there. But and he didn't do that until I forget when, but it was long before the Shadowless base set was actually released, and people were grading those cards. So yeah, that's the only other points that I would bring up with that question there.
Mm-hmm.
My next question is from TCG Bulk Kings, and he actually when I was getting these questions ready, I clicked on his profile, and he actually just started a YouTube channel that I would recommend checking out for any of you watching who are interested in the whole selling bulk Pokemon card process. He just started on YouTube, just uploaded his first video, but his other videos coming up in the future are going to be revolving around that whole selling bulk Pokemon cards on eBay. So definitely recommend checking him out if you're interested in that. But he asks, do you ever end up with bulk in your collection buys, like bulky bulk, true bulk? And if so, what do you guys do with it? Asking for a friend. So I don't only receive bulk in different collections that I buy. I'll actually buy collections that are just bulk to resell those cards. Not so much with modern product. I haven't gotten into buying modern bulk, but like I did a big purchase where I purchased Diamond and Pearl through Heart Gold Soul Silver bulk, and then always WotC bulk I'll purchase. But I typically just sell everything individually on eBay. I've started getting into selling on the Troll and Toad Evo program. So I'll set a certain amount aside for my own eBay store, and then anything extra will go get sent off to Troll and Toad to have them sell as part of their Evo program. I've never gotten into TCG Player myself, which I know this TCG Bulk Kings is on TCG Player, but I've never gotten into TCG Player myself. It's always just been eBay and Troll and Toad, and it's usually always individually. I don't do too many lots of cards that I sell off. It's usually always individually for me. I don't know about what do you like to do with your bulk cards?
Yeah, so over the years, I used to end up with more bulky bulk a few years ago, but I still do today. Like I recently went and did those the Battle Arena decks. I picked up a bunch of the Rayquaza, Keldeo Battle Arena decks, and I broke them down for like the Versus Seekers, the Float Stones, the Rayquaza and Keldeo EXs, and you end up with a lot of trainers and just random commons and uncommons that are 20 cents each on Troll and Toad. So instead of selling for 20 cents each, along with 10 other vendors, and there's 1,000 of them listed, I bulk a lot of those out. I'd rather get 3.5 cents each, 4.5 cents each today up front than pay storage and sit on them for a long time. So historically, I sold a lot to Troll and Toad directly. More recently, I found a few different individuals on Verbank that pay. I think what they do is they see what Troll and Toad is paying, and they just pay like 5 to 10% more just to get the business from them.
Mm-hmm.
So like I recently just sold like 22,000 basic energies for 2 cents a piece to somebody on Verbank. I don't ask me what people do with 22,000 basic energies.
No idea.
I was glad to take. Might have been 2.5 cents each, because I think Troll and Toad pays 2 cents each.
Wow, 2.5 cents each. That's good.
2.5 or 2.25. It was a little over 2, I want to say.
Okay.
But yeah, I sold the collector's cash years ago. Troll and Toad, a couple different websites I can't really remember. Random individuals on Verbank. So yeah, a little bit all over the place.
Yeah. On stuff like that, where you're opening like theme decks or battle decks or whatever, where it's always going to be the exact same cards and you're going to accumulate a massive amount of each card, I'll keep 50 of each, and I basically split. I do 25 on eBay, 25 to Troll and Toad, and then anything over that amount I just sell off as bulk. So I guess I do sell off as bulk occasionally. But
Mhm.
I do keep some of everything just to kind of build up my inventory and have those cards available for whenever someone wants to come along and buy them.
Yeah. So the next question came from Promo Hunters, and I kind of paraphrased the question, but just for context, this was asked by someone from Australia, and it was kind of with a resale mindset. So, opinion on sending some of your lower tier cards to grade with these new pop-up grading companies. I know here in Australia we have one long-term grading company, and a few have popped up over the last couple months. I'm sure every country has something similar happening. Does it make sense to send your cards that were originally set aside to grade, but because of the wait time and shutdowns of the big three companies, to send to these new or lesser known companies to gain a small premium above the raw price? So for me, I kind of think the answer is yes. I do intend when I have more time to try a couple of these guys out. I am very much someone who buys the card and not the grade or the grading company. Um, we'll get into it a bit more thorough in my next question, but I've always been a PSA 9 collector. I think I've seen so much more value there over a PSA 10. So I think the main issue that I want to be upfront about is do not expect to get PSA 10, CGC 10, or BGS 10 premium with any of these new three-letter acronyms, at least to begin with. So you run the risk of you might grade a PSA 10 quality card that would have been $500. You might be stuck selling it as a XYZ 10 for 150 or something of that nature. You're going to be selling it more for like a raw mint or PSA 9 if you're lucky, PSA 8 maybe price. But for certain cards, I'm fairly pessimistic on where their price is headed over the next year or two as the backlog shows itself. So if in the meantime you can pay a little bit of money to get it through one of these newer companies, I think it's worthwhile, potentially worthwhile. Highly dependent on the card, but I do intend to send some myself just to try them out. Partially because I've got 5,000 each at PSA and CGC that are going to trickle in over the next year or two, and I've got a lot more cards that I just don't want to throw at them, and I might as well play around with some of the others. And I've seen anecdotal people saying like, hey, I graded 100 cards with these guys and I'm selling them here and there for a premium over raw plus grading fee. It's worth playing around with, to me at least. Anything you've thought about or have an opinion on?
I've thought about it, but I've decided against it. Just because I'd rather get that additional premium and wait for PSA and CGC versus
Mm-hmm.
just throwing these cards at some no-name company. I think there's potential for it right now. If you want to get these cards, if you want to get some cards graded by one of these lesser known companies, I think there's decent potential to make a bit of money doing that right now. But over the next year or so, once PSA, CGC, and BGS start catching up on their backlog and start reopening, I think all these new grading companies are going to kind of get forgotten about. I don't think anything outside of like the big three, and I would include SGC with that. But anything outside of like those four, I don't think they're going to last. I think it's more of like a heat of the moment type of thing where they're doing good right now because there's really no other option. But
Yeah.
once those big three companies come back into the equation, I think everyone's just going to forget about these other companies. So
Yeah.
if it's like a short term thing or short term flip that you're thinking of, I could see there being a decent amount of opportunity there. But if you're thinking like long term, kind of like submit these cards, like do a submission every month for a couple months, I would avoid that. But if it's just going to be one submission and done, I think there's opportunity there. So my next question is from Andrew M, and he asks, if and when PSA opens back up to a reasonable capacity, will you continue grading with CGC? If so, how will you differentiate what you send to PSA versus CGC? Is CGC is or will CGC be destined to be labeled as a low-end label? So that's a good question, actually. I will. So hopefully PSA will reopen at some point here. But when PSA does reopen, I personally think I'll definitely continue grading with both PSA and CGC. I think I'll continue my original strategy, which was to send error cards and modern cards into CGC, and then all of my WotC stuff into PSA. Just because I think, like I was saying in a previous question, I think CGC is best for like those one-off cards where you want that one card from the set versus you want to collect that whole PSA 9-10 set. So that's why I stick with I'm going to stick with the error cards and the modern cards for CGC, and then WotC stuff, higher end stuff will keep going to PSA at least until CGC kind of further establishes themselves and gets a better foothold in the market with their pricing. Because right now it is lower than what you could get out of that same card in a PSA holder. So I think it'll take a while before CGC does kind of get out of that lower end label type of company. But I can see it happening in the future. It's just going to take time, is what I think.
Mm-hmm. For me, I think we're so far away, years from any of these companies being any semblance of normalcy to what they were a few years ago. A year or two ago, even. I'll keep up to speed on what's happening and any developments, but I think there'll be a place for both CGC and PSA for my the way I do business personally. And to me, as far as my collection goes, being able to grade cards for so much cheaper, especially the high-end ones, the CGC label gets so much hate, and I think it's undeserved. I mean, if I've got a card that I know I'm going to keep for the long term, I mean, resale value right now, PSA, hands down. Just especially if it's going to get a 10 at PSA, and then you're comparing to a CGC 9.5, the resale value is just astronomically different on a lot of cards. But if it's something I intend to keep, I really like CGC's presentation a lot more. I like getting the subgrade so you know what's wrong with it.
Yep.
Every card has stuff wrong with it, even PSA 10s. And I just like knowing what it is and where. But the market really doesn't. They like round numbers and they like perfection, right? 10 out of 10. So, yeah, I'm going to be fully involved in the market in the coming years, and seeing how things develop, I'll adjust accordingly. Next question is a long one, so I'll probably do a bit of paraphrasing, but Max B had an interesting question about condition rarity that I alluded to in the previous question. But it seems like PSA 9s carry the most value considering risk reward, but going for PSA 10s is still common amongst collectors and investors. I love a PSA 10 as much as the next guy, and sometimes they'll buy a 10 over a 9. But what they're getting at is they pick out one card specifically, a PSA 10 Jungle Snorlax. They sold for $1.5K recently, and a 9 is $200. Funny enough, they mentioned I sold myself both a 10 and a 9, and it was about $1,400 or $1,500 and $200. So in future years, as pops get flushed out and these cards become less available, do you see the price gap between 9s and 10s widening or narrowing? There's many 9s that could be 10s and vice versa. Is that deviation amongst grades significant enough to impact things in the future? Sometimes you get a harsh grader, sometimes you get lucky, etc. Personally, I'm not convinced PSA 10s will always demand as big of a premium as they currently do, or maybe I'm just cheap. Sorry, this is so scattered, but I wanted to provide plenty of context. Interested to hear your guys' responses. So I find myself in the same boat as far as if I can have one card versus 7 of the same card in what to me oftentimes is like indistinguishable differences. I mean, usually the difference between a 9 and a 10 is minute centering, or you've got to turn the card over and look for little white specks. I mean, to me, I'm always enjoying the front of the card. Clean hollow for me. I'm good to go. So many pack fresh, mint, no hollow scratch cards end up as 9s just because of a couple white specks. So I'm fully on board with 9s being the best value, generally speaking, with the price increases, sometimes even 8s to me, nice looking 8s. But as far as whether or not the gap's going to widen or narrow, I think it's such a tough question because I think I'm a very atypical collector. I think so many people, especially more when you get into the investor crowd, in a way, for the same reason, like I'd take 7 cards in PSA 9 over 1 in PSA 10, but an investor generally won't, because one, it's 7 transactions to get rid of it instead of 1, and like space becomes a thing. If you want to move $1 million into Pokemon, people would rather end up probably generally with 100 high quality PSA 10 slabs instead of 1,000 PSA 9 slabs, just for storage and logistical concerns. So I think on a lot of cards, it's going to be my classic kind of it depends answer. Certain cards, they'll widen. Certain cards, they'll narrow. It's just really, really an impossibly tough question. I think, I guess to kind of answer a little bit more granular than that, I think with trophy cards, it'll generally narrow more because a lot of those they're just so rare that even finding one to purchase is tough. So like 7, 8, 9, 10, you might see certain cards out there where there's only a 2 to 5x between like an 8 and a 10, whereas set cards, especially with the T17, with some of those really low pop expedition hollows, and I don't think that's going away. And in some cases, those might widen the really, really low pop because, in my opinion, that's where people are really just buying labels. You want to complete your set, you've got to get the 10, whether or not it's a 10 with an ink dot or with 4 specks of whitening that shouldn't have ever been a 10, and whatever the cert number is. At the end of the day, a lot of people just buy labels. I'm not one of those people, but psychologically, the 10 just has so much going for it. And so, yeah, I guess that's my answer. Kind of all over the place, but that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, that's basically what I'd say. Me personally, I agree with you. Where as a collector, I would so much rather be able to purchase more 8s or 9s than 1 or 2 10s. Kind of the quantity over quality, I guess. Because the difference between a 9 and a 10 is so minuscule. It doesn't bother me to collect 9s. I even have an 8 first edition base, and that doesn't bother me whatsoever. So for me, I don't see the massive appeal for PSA 10s, but for other people, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
But as far as pricing, kind of either widening or narrowing, I think it's always just going to remain how it is right now, or similar to how it is right now, where PSA 10s are worth a whole lot more than PSA 9s. PSA 9s are worth a decent bit more than PSA 8s, so on and so forth. But I do think that gap between the PSA 9 and PSA 10 price is always going to remain pretty fairly drastic when you're talking about the set cards. When you get into anything like super rare, like what you were talking about with the trophy cards, at that point the condition really doesn't come into play as much, because just getting that card in any condition is tough, let alone PSA 9, PSA 10. So on like set cards, I do think that gap's going to remain fairly substantial. But with the higher end cards, I don't think the grade matters as much, like what you were saying.
It's just, I kind of thought of one thing as you were talking to. Just I want to add in one, might be a little controversial, but kind of a consideration that I take as far as, let's stick with that, Snorlax. So he kind of mentioned, and I fully agree, that say you take 10 10s and 10 9s and regrade all 20 of them, you might not end up with 10 of each. Some of the 10s will become 9s, some of the 9s will become 10s. Well, from like a longer term potential options as far as increasing your value, when you're a PSA 10, sure, you could go for a CGC or BGS 10, you could go for the black label maybe if it's a really quality one. But generally speaking, PSA 10, you're already at the top of the top rung. There's really not much going up. Well, if you take the 7 to 10 PSA 9s instead of the 1 PSA 10, this is where the controversial part comes in. Theoretically, down the line, some of those 9s, I guess less controversial, they could become BGS 9.5s and gain you a little bit of premium.
Yep.
And a little bit more controversial, maybe you do crack them, regrade them, or review them, and they become PSA 10s. Well, and I've done it years ago. I haven't, with PSA's current turnaround time, I have not cracked anything recently because I'd rather just sell it now. But years ago, there were times where I picked up a few PSA 9s and wow, that one is super clean. That looks like a 10 to me. I buy 3 9s, crack one, regrade it, it gets a 10. Well, now I performed a lot better with my 3 PSA 9s than buying 1 PSA 10 I would have done. And so that becomes a thing. I mean, if you're in this game for the next 10 years and you buy 7 quality 9s, 2 to 5, 10 years from now, you can regrade 1 or 2 of them and maybe end up as 10s. So regardless of what the PSA 10-9 split did, if you end up with a PSA 10 and a handful of 9s versus the 110 that you could have bought, well, you performed a lot better regardless of the price.
That is true. That's a good point there.
So that's like an interesting consideration. The 9s have some potential for upside, and there's risk in that because you could crack them and you could damage them, or they could regrade as an 8. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
So there's risk in that, but I really have, I think a lot of people in the market today have a very short-term outlook, and I have a very, very long-term outlook. I want to be in this hobby for 10 to 20 years from now. I expect to be here. Yep. And I mean, that just gives you more options with a 9. Maybe CGC becomes king and you cross your PSA 9s over to CGC 9.5s, and maybe some new company that doesn't exist yet comes onto the market. And I'd rather just have the multiple PSA 9s for the part of it too is like you could sell one. If you've got 1 PSA 10, you're all the way in that card or you're all the way out of it.
Yep.
If you've got 7 PSA 9s, you could say like, I only want half of this exposure. You sell 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Sorry to add so much there, but kind of more thoughts that I had on a really, really interesting question.
No, those are good points too. I thought those were good points at the end there. I'd agree with that. So my next question is from Mini Lopo 18, and he's basically talking about the print numbers for Pokemon, going back all the way to 98, all the way up to current. I know there was a recent article, or semi-recent article, that was printed about all these different print numbers of how many Pokemon cards are actually out there. But so, for example, in '98 there was 500 million cards. They were all Japanese cards, obviously. And then in '99 we're up to 1 billion cards. Then the next number we have is 2004 to 2005, 13 billion cards. 2014 there's now 21.5 billion cards. 2017, 23.6 billion cards. 2018, 25.7 billion. And then up to 2020, 30.4 billion cards that have been produced across all languages. So his question was, what do these print numbers say about modern compared to, say, WotC or the EX middle generation eras? And I think it's pretty interesting because I obviously remember the demand of Pokemon back when I was a kid, growing up in the late '90s, back when WotC sets first started with the original base set and moving through Team Rocket and all that. But there was a huge demand for Pokemon back then. But I think there's an even larger demand for Pokemon right now in today's time with these new modern sets, because the amount of cards that they're printing today compared to back in '98, '99, 2000, they're printing a lot more cards today than they were printing back then. And so I think demand's even higher right now, for modern than it was back when we were growing up with the original base set. And then in terms of like the EX middle generation sets, that was always like the low point within Pokemon. So I think if you're like talking about like the popularity of Pokemon, I would say number one is modern. Number two would be the WotC era, and then number three would be everything in between that.
So for me, I generally agree. I think I actually did a little bit of work on this a couple of years ago, and I posted an article on E4.
I remember that.
Someday when I have more time, I really want to put more effort into that. And I think I've been every year when the Pokemon releases their new number, I just go back and I add it on for whatever day that I devote the time to update this. I want to have like all the timestamp data.
Yep.
But so 98 we had 500 million. 04 we had 13 billion. So across 6 years we did 12.5 billion cards. And yep. I don't know for sure, I don't know exact numbers, but I would say that 99 to 01 were significantly higher than 01 to 04. I think that would be a widely agreed statement.
Oh yeah.
So for a 3-year period from 99 to 01, the majority of those 13 billion cards would have been printed. I mean, you're looking at a potential for, there could have been, yeah, I guess that would put it kind of on par. I mean, 3 to 4 billion cards a year in those 2 or 3 years, potentially 4 or 5 if it was significant. And I think those target sets would be base jungle fossil, to some extent Rocket, and then
I would include Rocket, yeah.
Yeah, and then it dropped off a fair bit to gyms, and then it dropped off significantly more with Neos, significantly more with E-Series. Yep. Whereas in recent years, if you look at the 6-year period or 5-year period from, sorry, I guess we only have a 3-year period from 17 to 20, you're looking at 6.8 billion cards. So you're at like 2 point something. Our most recent year over year was 3.2 billion.
Yep.
We're right up near there. I mean, we're knocking on the door of 1999 amounts. But I think base set specifically was just printed so massively. Like, I think put base first, jungle fossil, I think are really close with like evolutions and some of the really recent sets as well. I really do. In the next few months, I'm going to get back into that article that I wrote and flesh it out more. But nobody can argue with the numbers shown, because you look at the 04 to 2014, 8.5 billion cards were made over 10 years. So you're looking at less than $1 billion a year during EX to Call of Legends, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Diamond and Pearl Platinum, all those. Significantly less cards were made, but there's significantly less popularity. I mean, that significantly less cards were made for a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that 20 years from now, you're going to have just 70 more sets, 500 new species of Pokemon. Like, are they really going to stand out in any way? Like, I personally would longer term, I would bet on those mid-era sets before I'd bet on like today's modern, just because they won't necessarily stand out any more or less, but there's just an order of magnitude less cards.
See, if we're talking, not to get too far off subject, but if we're talking 20, 30 years from now, I would bet on these modern sets versus that mid-era set because you have less cards that were printed back then, but you also have less collectors that were collecting back then. Whereas you have a ton of collectors that are collecting now, meaning you have a ton of kids that are collecting now, and the ones that are going to be getting back into Pokemon 20, 30 years from now, they're going to want to go back to the sets that they collected as a kid, which are these ones that are coming out now.
The main thing scares me is everyone's closets and everyone's warehouses and all the sealed. And yeah, I mean, we could do a 5-hour podcast on this topic alone, but I think even though it was printed significantly more, I think the WotC era is always going to kind of be like the golden era. Though it was printed significantly more than those middle eras, I would choose WotC over anything else, even though right now, in many ways, it's getting kind of hit the hardest with the current downturn.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a really interesting thing to think about and look into. But
it is, for sure.
When you start looking at it, I mean, 25th anniversary this year, when you start extending out another 25 years, there's just so much uncertainty. There's going to be so much more. I mean, every current set out now is going to be that many years older, and we're going to double up the number of sets that exist theoretically. I mean, hopefully we make it strong to the 50th anniversary, and there might be 10 years from now, there might be a lull deeper and lower than what it was 10 years ago. 15 years ago. We have no idea. I mean, so yeah, it's really hard to say what might happen, but as with everything else, it's really fun to think about and talk about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I love trying to figure out, like, look at those numbers and trying to figure out how many cards were produced of each set and all that stuff. Like that thread you made a long while back. I actually remember that thread that you posted on E4, getting into the print numbers of each set and all that.
In some of the specifics, like the thing that I was mainly after was like how many chase cards. I think I made completely, like, very rough, not complete guesses, but like mostly guessing.
Yeah.
Some of like the Team Rocket Returns, Gold Stars, there may have been low tens of thousands of each Gold Star printed. And how that hits certain people, I think some people would think like, oh, there's only 1,000 of those each printed. And that number is just like unrealistically low. Some people might think, oh, it's a set card. There was 1 million of those printed. I think my number was within an order of magnitude either way. And I kind of want to work on refining that more, but I think that's super interesting. And then to see, like, I don't know that it was 100% legitimate source, but there was a source somewhere that said that 2 million two-player starter sets were printed.
2 million two-player, wow.
And the numbers that I roughly estimated, obviously that would be 2 million Machamps.
Yeah.
But the numbers that I roughly estimated, I think as far as like base, I think I had figured hundreds of thousands. Or was it close to 1 million maybe of each base hollow as well? Like 1 million Charizards, 1 million, somewhere in there. I mean, yeah. A lot of them. Very, very large amount. These are big numbers. I mean, and then look at
Oh yeah.
look at these new sets. Look at these pop reports: 5,000, 6,000 PSA 10, Darkness Ablaze VMAX Charizards.
Yep.
So once I do revisit that and kind of I can tie in some of the current pop reports, and it'll be a fun exercise, I think. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, really common but very interesting question. It's on everyone's mind, and
I don't think we'll ever know the true answer.
we definitely never will. I envy like early Magic, the fact that they have some of those numbers, and we both have a little bit of experience in like coins.
Yep.
Coins, you know the mintages. You don't know what survived over the years, but you know the mintages of
Yep.
every date and mint mark, and I really like that.
Oh
But
yeah.
it's
I
interesting.
like that a lot.
It's interesting this way too, though. Just the mystery of it all.
No, I don't like the mystery. So I actually have one more question, and that's it for me. You didn't have any more questions, right? We answered, yeah.
Yeah, we got all mine.
So my last question is from John P. He actually sent me an email, and I never got back to you, so I am so sorry about that. But I'm reading your question now. But he's basically talking about how he was an avid TCG player from 2000 to 2004, winning some of the battle zones and some tournaments at Gen Con back in the day. He has a ton of cards and a ton of non-card TCG items, cloth playmats, letters from the Pokemon Company, physical trophies, entrance banners, etc., that are really hard to value. So he's wondering if there's any value associated with the non-card TCG related items that he has and that are out there, stuff that's a little bit harder to value and doesn't come up for sale very often. I would say it's definitely a niche market where it's going to take a certain buyer to buy whatever item you're looking to sell. However, it does definitely have some value, and some of those items can have a lot of value depending upon what it is and what tournament it's from, so on and so forth. But for something like that, if you're looking to sell it, I would recommend listing it on eBay for some not absurdly high price, but some reasonably high price that you don't think anyone would actually click that buy it now button, and just take best offers and see what people are offering you for that item, to kind of gauge where the market is, and then you can always lower your price if there's no interest. Then you can start lowering your price slowly and just kind of see what people are willing to pay on something like that. But I would say there's definitely some good value depending upon what you have. I personally do like make frames of different like promotional material and stickers. So that might be something you can look into as well. If you have like a lot of this stuff, you can make like little frames and sell it that way. That might be something interesting that people would be more apt to buy. But yeah, there's definitely a market for that stuff.
Yeah, I've seen. I don't know exactly what he has, but some of the champion playmats, couple $100. I've seen. I mean, kind of like the holy grail of some of these items, like some of the early Blizzardon, KMEX battle tournaments. The 2 or 3 of these trophies exist in the world. I think you're looking at thousands of dollars. Some of the TMB tournaments, the medals that came from those, SSB. Again, I think you're in there's some listed on eBay. You might be able to find comparisons for what you have. You might see listings on eBay. But then I've also seen I'd almost suggest you might go on like Verbank on Facebook and just post what you have and see if people hit you up with offers.
Yep.
I've seen people selling like city championship, the glass plaques and trophies, and some of them couple $100. If it's got Charizard on it, you're going to do better than if it's got someone else on it. But yeah, I mean, you might be surprised. Certain things you might find comparable sold listings on eBay, and other ones just kind of spread them out there on Facebook or Instagram and see what you get.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Well, that is all the questions we had for episode number 8. If you
A lot of
guys,
questions.
a lot of questions this time around. We spent a good bit of time on questions.
Keep them coming though. Great
Oh yeah,
dialogue, great conversation on a lot of them. Leave your comments below for the next one.
yes, exactly. Now we're getting into the exciting part. We've already talked about this a little bit, but this past weekend, I was actually down at Collecticon in Texas. So I figured we'd kind of start off by talking a little bit about that, and then move on into the 25th anniversary news that we heard late last week, I believe.
Yep.
But yeah. So first off, with the Collecticon, we already kind of talked about this a little bit, but I'll be doing another video, or I'll be doing my own video, kind of giving a breakdown of the sales that I had at the event, and then my costs that were associated with that event. But so I'll be talking about that in a whole nother video. But overall, that event was an absolute blast. Had a great time. Me and Gem Mint Pokemon were there with one table, so we each had one display case, and I really wasn't sure what to expect out of that event, but it was just such a good time. Met a ton of people, which was awesome. And the biggest surprise for me from that event was I was more so considering the monetary aspect, like how much I'd make from the event. I never considered the following that I would gain from going to that event. There were a ton of people that came up to me and said that they enjoyed my YouTube channel, enjoyed our podcast. Had a bunch of people ask where you were. You were very missed. And then I also gained a ton of followers on Instagram from this event. I gained like 200 followers on Instagram just from getting my name out there, which that I'd never considered about going to these events. And I guess that's actually pretty big, just to kind of get your name out there further, have additional people following you who might subscribe to our YouTube channels or follow our eBay stores or purchase something from us or whatnot. But that was something I'd never considered. And then in addition to that, I also did a little networking, I guess you can call it, with the people from Whatnot, which is also something I'd never thought about with going to this event. So I was able to meet the head of TCG at Whatnot, and we talked about me selling on Whatnot, and I actually got set up with a seller account on Whatnot to start selling. So I'm gonna give that a shot, and hopefully that'll go really well. But that's also something that I never considered about going to these events. So I definitely learned a lot, and I definitely think it's more important now to actually go to these in-person events and kind of make it a priority to go to these events versus just having an online presence where nobody ever meets you. I don't know if you have anything to add on to that, but
yeah, unfortunately, as you said, I didn't go. I don't anticipate making any events this year, but next year I do intend to go to Worlds, and I intend to try to make at least a few of the bigger events each year going ahead. But yeah, different circumstances globally and what's going on, and just family things, and it's not in the cards for this year. But going to 2 past Worlds, going to the collectors event at Hartford a couple of years ago, really great experiences, meeting so many cool other collectors. Networking is huge in any business, even whether you're a business or just a collector. Getting your name out there, you're the No Damage Ninetales guy, you've got the podcast, and you meet new people. I was paying attention to Instagram over the weekend quite a bit, just checking out people's stories. I saw your face pop up there, a few tags here and there, I think, which helps the Instagram. Everything
Yep.
feeds into each other, and yeah, can't say enough about how important networking is, and just being known and getting people to refer others to you, getting collections sent your way, whatever it may be. Really valuable. And then on top of it all, just a great time
Oh,
to
it's an absolute blast.
meet like-minded people the same way we're talking now, the same way I love this, just because little if any people in my real life, my day-to-day life, care about Pokemon very much. So just
Yeah.
to talk with other passionate people deep in the hobby is just a really great time. So yeah, I didn't go, but next year we'll be hopefully doing some in-person recordings
That'd be cool. There we
of this
go.
podcast, and kind of being present at these events together. At least
Yeah, exactly. No, definitely.
looking forward to that.
They're planning for 4 Collecticon events next year. I don't think there's going to be any more happening this year, but they're planning for 4 next year, so that'll be good. Have to try and make it to a few of those.
Yeah,
They,
hopefully. I mean, we're pretty close, relatively close, both in the Northeast. Hopefully, we'll get something kind of our way that would make it a fair bit easier.
oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, because that was the biggest pain for me was having to fly down. It was kind of rough having to fly with all my stuff that I brought. Was not a big fan of that.
Yeah, I didn't really ask you this before, but I kind of was curious. I guess I'll put you on the spot. But did you find, because you've attended events as an attendee solely, whereas you attended this as a vendor, did you find any, like, did you almost feel tied to your table a little bit too much, like you couldn't go out and do certain things? Like, how do you feel about that? Like, taking business out of it, did you just feel like you didn't get to experience or meet certain things? Any comments on that?
I definitely did feel that way slightly.
Mm,
I liked having the table, making those sales, being able to make those connections with different people. Whereas if I was just walking around and talking to different people, nobody would really know that I'm old school Pokemon unless they watch the channel. But with
mhm.
having an actual table, I had a huge banner that said old school Pokemon right on it, so people were able to make that connection a little bit easier.
Yeah.
I did feel like I missed out on being able to walk around and see what everyone else had available, make any purchases for myself that I wanted to make. It was me and Gem Mint Pokemon at the table, so we did share the space and watch each other's stuff so that we could walk around a little bit. But
Mhm.
I didn't really want to walk around the whole show and spend hours walking around while Gem Mint Pokemon watched my stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, for obvious reasons, but so I did feel like I missed out on that part of the show, which was a little disappointing because I would have loved to have been able to walk around and talk to all the other vendors and stuff. But I think overall I enjoyed being a vendor more so than just being a spectator or person that's going to the event,
Mhm.
because you do get to the only thing that you're missing out on is you're missing out on walking around and seeing everyone's stuff. After the event's over, everyone's hanging out in the hotel lobby or going out to dinner to get drinks, whatever. So you're able to hang out with everyone still
Yeah.
afterwards. It's just that during the show part, you're kind of stuck at your table.
Yeah, I know with like Worlds, there's no vending to begin with.
Yeah,
They don't allow it. So I remember breaking off with different kind of groups, doing a little bit of sightseeing in both Nashville in 18 and then DC in 19. Uh,
getting us lost getting us lost on the way to
on the
the
way to the Mint. Yeah, that was my bad. But yeah, you definitely just kind of, I mean, obviously World, it's not a consideration. you just go, you go as an attendee. There's no vending.
Yeah.
But like at first, my first thought was like, oh, it's cool. He's going to be a vendor. But in a way, I'd almost rather just be our participant, more free to go wherever, do whatever. But like you said, there's pros and cons to each. I think overall, you said you kind of lean towards vending. Sounds like you'll
Yep.
do that for the next one. I feel like I lean away from it slightly, but like close. I don't know what I'll do whenever I attend one of the next ones. Have to see when we get there, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a tough decision because I guess it comes down to whether or not you want that experience to be more so a vacation, or do you want it to be work?
Yeah.
Because like being a vendor, it is definitely work, but you're making those sales. People are approaching you, asking if you want to buy stuff, asking if you want to trade. I was able to make a lot of good trades, couple of good purchases. Whereas if I didn't have the table, I wouldn't have been able to do that for the most part, probably because random people aren't going to come walking up to another random person asking if they
Yeah.
want to buy stuff.
Yeah. Interesting though. And then the whatnot thing is really cool. I had good experiences on the buying side. Kind of a mutual friend, John, Pokemon Radar. He had some great whatnot breaks that I bought into. It's a really fun thing. The live auction aspect of it, 1 minute auctions, just a really cool thing there, and that's exciting that you're getting involved in that.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that. That's another whole thing. I knew of Whatnot, but I never knew about how successful singles were on Whatnot, or if even people sold singles on Whatnot. But I got to talking with one of the guys from Whatnot. Actually, John introduced me to on Pokemon Radar, and they were both saying singles are doing really good on Whatnot. There's a lot of people that are interested in buying singles through the app because it makes sense. You're able to see the condition of the card in real time, versus purchasing through eBay or wherever where you're just seeing stock pictures. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Curious to see how it'll go. Hopefully it's fun and I'm able to move some inventory. That'd be nice right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, before the event, I always thought Whatnot was basically for pack breaks, or box breaks, whatever. I really never knew that there was a whole other card side of Whatnot.
Yeah, I know for like May, I think it was May, they did that big collection.
Yep.
All of WotC, every card individually graded, and they auctioned them off. I didn't participate in that at all, but I was aware that it existed. I'll try to tune in depending on the timing of your stream. Definitely interested to see how that goes, and interesting to hear in our next podcast how it went.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I'm excited for it. We'll see how that goes.
Be sure to I'm assuming it's just old school Pokemon over on Whatnot.
Yeah, old school Pokemon.
Be sure to download the app and go give Nick a follow over there and be ready.
Yes, we'll be doing our auction, or I'll be doing my auction this Saturday at 6 p.m. I'll tell you guys, if you've been watching the podcast this far, I'm gonna have a ton of free giveaways since it will be my first auction event. I'm planning on giving away something big's going to be given away to the first person who buys something, just because it's my first sale. So definitely be sure to check it out if you want to win some free stuff and get some cool cards.
You got to reward the people who stick around. I don't know where we're at now, but we're over an hour, I would say.
Oh, we're easily over an hour. Yeah. I think we might be coming up on 2 hours.
This is going to be a long one, but I think it's a good conversation and a lot of good questions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that's really all I wanted to bring up for Collecticon. Like I said, I'll do a whole other video talking about my sales and all that stuff. But for me personally, I went into Collecticon focused on the sales. after Collecticon, the sales really didn't matter as much to me. If I didn't sell anything, I probably wouldn't be disappointed because I just had an awesome time being able to meet everyone and see old friends. But yeah, so it was a great time overall.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, but I don't know if you want to get us started on the next topic, which I am also super excited about.
Yeah, so last week the details of the 25th anniversary set came out, and a lot of the product images were presented to us. They're gonna do ETB, collector's chest tin, a few different boxes with figures in them. Most people probably know by now. This isn't like breaking news, but just quick recap. 4-card booster packs, depending on the product. I mean, you can go to Poke Beach or Poke Guardian to see every product and the breakdown, the MSRP, but you'll get a small amount of 4-card packs of the celebrations, right? Celebrations set.
No,
And then each product also contains some of the standard booster packs, Vivid Voltage, Chilling Reign, whatever they may be. So there's no way to get, I don't think there's any product that is like only celebrations packs, which is kind of a new unique thing, right? Because the 20th anniversary, you could get the mythical pin collections that had just generations packs. So
yep.
Celebrations packs, they won't have a booster box, similar with other releases of that sort. But unique to it is they're 4-card packs, and you have to get them in a product that also gives you standard sets too. And then I guess getting into the what's actually in the set, really great thing in my opinion. A lot of people don't like the little Pikachu head that's going to be in the bottom right of the artwork, I don't think.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But they're reprinting, well, not, they're doing a base set Charizard. Obviously, you've got to have that in there again. But they're doing the light toxicity, which is kind of a nod to Neo Destiny. They're doing Greninja Gold Star, I believe, is the promo that comes in the ETB. I'm really excited about that.
Is it a promo?
I believe that's the ETB promo.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Gold Star, I mean, that's hype right there. Umbreon
Oh, yeah.
Gold Star is going to be in the set, apparently. There's Dragapult Prime, I believe.
Yep.
Level X. You're getting a little bit of the 25-year history of kind of the ultra rare chase cards. So that's just going to be so great, I think. I guess I'll let you chime in before I just ramble on for 10 minutes about it.
No, I'm so excited. So when we were originally talking about the 25th anniversary set, I never thought of something that kind of combined the entire history of Pokemon. I was always thinking a Neo reprint would be awesome.
Yeah.
But now that we know the details and we know that it's going to be kind of revolving around the entire history of Pokemon, I don't know why I didn't think of that, or why I never heard anyone say something like that, and I think that is a fantastic idea. I am so excited for that. I do wish I wish they chose something besides Charizard. That's the only one that, because we just had a reprint of Charizard in Evolutions, but I almost think that they have to do a Charizard.
I think Venusaur though too, right? Venusaur.
Yeah, they're gonna be doing a Venusaur. Yep.
I didn't see anything about Blastoise. I hope they get the full trio there. They have a history, Pokemon does, of like doing 2/3 of a trio.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are sets with Articuno and Zapdos and no Moltres, and there's sets with, I mean, 2 out of the 3 of a lot of the trios. That's just a historical thing they do for whatever reason. But hopefully they round that out, and I'm interested to see what other gold stars they hit, if they do any of the old school EXs, and it's going to be really, really exciting, I think. And I know I am going for both Evolving Skies, which ties in Eevee Heroes, and then this Celebrations. The remainder of this year, I am taking every bit of product that I'm allocated from my distributor.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think they're going to print a lot of it probably, but these things are just such amazing sets. They look like that. I'm just gonna take all I can get.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I
And
can't say it for certain, but like I don't really see what happened with battle styles happening with these sets, just because how much more quality they are. If they really wind up the printers, though, we might be surprised. And you and I get them at distributor pricing, so obviously, like the downside risk is very, very low. Be careful if you're going to be doing pre-orders at exorbitant prices. I do think that these things will be available in the realm of retail. So I'm not saying go all in at triple retail, buy everything you can. I mean, be prudent about it. But yeah, really, really exciting fall we're lined up for.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. Um, the only complaint I have is with the name. I think they could have come up with something better than that.
Yeah, celebrations. I don't know. It it is what it is. It's hard to have anything too negative to say. But I do see people like the McDonald's promos have that Pikachu in the bottom right, and I mean
Yep.
for those it's like, okay, it's McDonald's promos, whatever. I think they've all had some kind of logo like that. I kind of get that but in another way, it kind of protects more of the original, right? It makes it more easier to distinguish, and I see why they're doing it.
Yeah. I don't mind the because it's like well, it's basically a 25th anniversary stamp. So I don't mind it, because it'll we'll all know that those cards came from the 25th anniversary.
Did you see that gold box that's coming out of
I was
Japan too?
just going to ask you about that one.
Metal cards in it, I
Yeah,
believe. A
yep.
Pikachu and then like a Pokeball gold cards. Gold everything box.
It looks absolutely incredible.
I forget where it went, but I have that Master Battle set. It looks kind of like the Master Battle set that came out a couple of years ago. It had
Oh yeah.
those two promo cards. So it's kind of like along those same lines, but I think it's going to be impossible to pick up at retail, but I'll definitely be keeping an eye on eBay, and that might be the kind of product that, I mean, I don't have distributor access to. I might pay multiples of retail to get one or two, because I really like that product. It's really cool.
Yeah, you're definitely not gonna be able to find those at retail, but
Yeah.
that's something that's well worth paying over the retail on something like that. I saw that on Facebook the other day, or a couple days ago, and it looks absolutely sick. I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
And then all the English product as well. It's gonna be an exciting fall for us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been quite the previous year and a half, and the next 6 months look really, really exciting. And Pokemon is just knocking it out of the park on Modern right now.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, I'm a WotC guy. I grew up then, and that's where my main that's where all my nostalgia lies. And but honestly, like what's going on right now, they're killing it with Modern. They're doing such a great job, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And I think this celebrations, this 25th anniversary set will make up for. There hasn't been too much going on this year. It's like a celebration for the 25th anniversary. I haven't been too excited with anything that they've come out with just yet. The jumbo cards, those are pretty cool. McDonald's cards I never got into, but it's been kind of a lackluster 25th anniversary until now.
Yeah, I like those jumbos, and I've actually collected the jumbos. I've always kept a couple of every jumbo promo that they came out with. I always pick up like a case of everything from distribution.
Yeah.
So it was kind of annoying that like changed the size of the jumbos, but I like that they gave us a good way to store and kind of present them with those binders.
Oh, it's about time. Yeah.
So it's really cool, like the 25 slot binder. You're going to get all 8 generations, the 3 starters from each. So you're going to fill out your binder with the 24 starters and then the Pikachu that comes with the binder. So
Yeah.
I've taken my allocation on those, not very many, but I haven't sold any of them yet. I'm probably going to go through and like complete a bunch of binders and then be selling those. I mean, keep some for myself, but be selling those as like a complete promo set.
Yeah.
I don't know how well they'll do, but I really like them.
Yeah. It's funny. So we get them every month, the beginning of every month.
Mm.
And I've been putting a bunch of the sets together as we get each new release. And it feels like I just put the ones from June together, like put the ones from June in the binder. I think that was that black and white starter?
I believe so.
Well, feels like I just did that, and I'm already getting the ones for July tomorrow, actually.
Yeah.
So just goes to show how quickly June went by.
Yeah, I opened like some of the first ones and put them in a bind, and then I've just been like piling up the boxes for the other ones. I know all these grading companies have a big backlog. I have my own very large backlog of things. I was talking before, I haven't even opened Chilling Reign for myself yet. I need to catch up.
You're slacking. Gotta open some Chilling Reigns. That was a fun set to open. I had a good time opening that set.
Yeah,
so
hopefully
much battle styles.
Next couple of weeks, hopefully I'll be able to, but in the next few months, I think I'll have a bit more time to keep up on everything and work through my backlog.
That'll be good. That'll be good right there. So the only other thing that I had was our predictions for PSA reopening tomorrow. We're recording this on June 30th, but so what do you think is going to happen tomorrow? Is PSA going to go completely reopen?
It is June 30th at 11:50 p.m. almost, so like 10 minutes away. I don't think they're going to drop the news at midnight, but who knows? Maybe I'll Google it quick before we sign off, and then we'll have the actual answer in 10 minutes.
Yeah, we could almost live stream the actual event if they put it at midnight.
Yeah. I like how you asked the question and then made me go first, put me on the spot. But no, I think I've been pretty open with what I think is going to happen on this for a while, both in this podcast and on E4, on Instagram, wherever. Somehow, I think people still think, some amount of people out there think that $20 a card is coming back. I'm going to say that is not happening. Quite confidently. I do not see anything double digit opening up tomorrow. PSA does crazy things. If and when they do, it's going to be like, I mean, they won't say this, but if they open a $99 per card or a $25 per card, they're insane. And it's going to take a year or two to get it back. My hope is that they do the prudent thing, and instead of 300 a card, whatever they call it, Ultra Express, is that Express?
Super Express.
Super Express. So hopefully they go down and they open up Express, one more tier. That is it, and they should closely monitor it. I expected they'll open up Express. Do you know what the sticker rate is on it now? Is it?
I was just going to ask you. I think they have like a $200 tier and then like a $150, or is that just one?
To me, if they open Express at $150 to $200 a card, that's fully what I'm anticipating, and I think that's the only reasonable thing that they can do. 150, honestly, I think might be too low. Like Nat Turner has done a couple recent interviews and podcasts that people might have kept up on, but he said, and I hope he's telling the truth, that they're going to keep a close eye on, hey, our capacity is roughly 20,000 cards a day. Presumably, with 300 and plus all that's open now, they're getting less than 20,000 cards submitted a day. I mean, clearly.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're getting less than your daily throughput, you're getting through the backlog. If they open up a tier tomorrow and then they get an avalanche of 50,000 cards submitted in the first day or two, they need to be ready to like re-close that down or bump the price up. And I hope they pay close attention. I worry that if it's 150 a card, they might see a week of 20,000 cards a day or more. And maybe it would be an initial surge and then kind of peter out. So maybe leave it open a few weeks and just kind of see. But like if they do something drastic and go 100 a card or less, I am confident that they will get more than 20,000 cards a day for a while.
Oh yeah.
There are probably single submitters ready to send them 50,000 cards, 100,000 cards if like $50 a card opens back up. So yeah, I guess the short version of it, I predict 200 a card express is the new single cheapest option, and that's all they open. Nothing cheaper. 150 wouldn't be like overly surprising, but I think it's too cheap. I think they shouldn't go under 200. How about you?
I wish I looked up what the prices were for each, or even what each of those tiers works. I forget if are there two more tiers above $100, or is it just the one tier? I forget. But I would agree with what you said there.
Just to interrupt quickly, I just Googled it. So Super Express and up is all that's open now. Yep. Super Express is 300. So Express is 150. Regular is 100. Economy is 50. And value is 20. So I guess just to go back on I think they'll reopen Express at a new increased price of 200.
Really?
Yep.
I think they're going to my prediction is they're going to keep the same price of 150 and reopen that. Because remember, they already increased their prices before they shut down.
Oh, yeah. I think Express used to be 75. I think everything doubled essentially in March. But remember, in March, with doubled pricing, they received more in March than they did like the 6 months prior. So, I mean, I don't think opening Express for 150 would be unreasonable. I just worry that for the next couple weeks, they might go a little bit backwards on the backlog. I honestly think if you open 150 a card, you'll get more than 20,000 a card. Maybe not for a month, like maybe just those first few days, and then it'll calm down. But you can't underestimate sports cards.
I think that's the big thing right there is all sports cards. I think Pokemon's still a small percentage of their overall business.
Yeah, some new. It's been 3 months now that PSA has been relatively closed, right? Under 300 a card. I guess the day that they closed it, like March 30th or 31st, whatever it was, some big basketball set released. And apparently there's all these like Lonzo Ball rookies that are ready to be graded, I think. And I don't know anything about sports. I don't know how many cards are worth grading for 150 that aren't for 300. But I mean, again, if they were to go down and say like regular is open at 100 and Express is open at 150, I would be shocked, and I think they'd have to backpedal. If Express opens at 150, I won't be surprised, but I'm most expecting Express to open at like 175 or 200, slightly increased price.
That's interesting. I don't think they're going to do that, because in the one portion of that interview that you were talking about, that podcast with Nat Turner and who was the host of that interview? Do you remember?
Sports Card Investor. What was the YouTube?
Yeah.
I don't remember his name.
I don't remember, but that was his YouTube. And Nat Turner was saying he wants to try and not only reopen services, like sporadically reopen services, or kind of do that tiered approach to reopening services. He also wants to lower the prices of the tiers. So he doesn't want to maintain these high prices. He's talking about lowering the prices somewhat. So I think he's going to, or I think they're going to keep that 150, reopen that, and then keep everything else the same for now. And hopefully, as we move forward, they'll reopen more and more tiers, and hopefully lower the prices of those more expensive tiers.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And by the time this goes live,
We should know.
we'll likely already know. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see if either of us are right. Maybe they'll come out with some new remember right out of the pandemic closure, they came with that $7.50 a card special. I mean,
I don't remember that. Where was I during this?
the
The Pokemania special.
yeah, that was
I do remember that.
Just imagine they come out tomorrow and they're like, yeah, $20 a card, quarterly special. Just take the backlog from 2 years to like 10. Just load them up.
No, I don't think that'll happen. I wish it would, but I don't think so.
One other interesting bit of data, just since I think we're nearing 2 hours, we may as well like round it out to 2 hours. But looking at their live complete through dates as of today.
What is the Express complete through date?
Actually, okay, here it is. Where'd it go?
Because I know the Super Express is just like a couple days behind, maybe a week.
Okay, so here they are. So walkthrough is at June 23rd, so that's just a week. Super Express is June 17th. That's a couple weeks. Okay. Express, this tier that we're talking about them potentially reopening, that's all the way back to April 29th still.
Wow.
That's 2 months.
Yep.
And to me, to open a tier for $150 a card that's 2 months backlogged, that's kind of crazy. And I'm talking about raising the price on it even, which in a way is almost crazier. But I would make the argument that it's less crazy because at $200 a card, they're going to take in less than they would at $150 a card. So I think that would prevent them from going backwards. But yeah, I mean, these are all our guesses, and we'll know tomorrow. So it just turned to tomorrow. It's midnight now. So
did you get an email yet?
Today's the day. I don't see an email in my inbox, but
well, we might have to wait till it'd be 3 o'clock our time because they're in California. So
that's right. Yeah. So you got another 3 hours worth of topics to talk about. For the one viewer that stuck around till now.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think this was a great discussion tonight. I think that was our last topic on the agenda. I don't know if you have anything else to add, but
no, that was all I had for tonight. I thought tonight went good. I was happy with everything we talked about. A lot of good questions on there.
Yep. Super exciting things on the horizon as has been for a while. So
it's gonna be an exciting second half of the year.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, it's always fun talking to you. I was looking forward to this one because, like we said in the beginning, feels like it's been forever since we've done one of these for whatever reason. So.
Yeah, and we I think we went to a record duration for episode 8. So
I think so.
Thanks everyone for watching, and thank you especially to anyone who is stuck around and hearing this message.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and we will see you on the next one.
Yep, we'll catch you all later.